I'm joined today by Debbie Fish from Hotel Chocolat, Carl Yardav from Samworth, and Claire Sutton from Ibstock. So the purpose of this roundtable is to create an open, practical discussion with senior manufacturing leaders about real challenges currently facing the sector. So particularly we want to hear from you around leadership capabilities and future proofing. And this is very much a shared conversation rather than a presentation. So we're definitely keen to hear about your honest experiences. So what's working, maybe what's not so working, and where you see the biggest capability gaps emerging. So I'll just kind of guide the discussion through some key questions, but please feel free to build on each other's points as we go through. So I've got a bit of information up there, but by way of background, I spend a lot of time working with manufacturing businesses on leadership development, particularly frontline leaders and operational managers. And through all of those conversations with hundreds of leaders, I get a real insight into some of the challenges that organisations like yours are navigating and what really drives behaviour change in managers. But today definitely isn't about hearing from me, it's about hearing from you. So your experiences in leading manufacturing right now. Just in terms of like a sense of how the conversation is going to flow today. So we'll start by exploring some of the leadership challenges that you're currently facing. We'll then move on to more practical strategies that are working in businesses like yours, the impact of structured leadership development, and finally looking ahead at some of the skills that leaders might need in the future. So if it's okay with you, it would be really good if we just kind of have a very quick introduction by yourself. So just who you are, the organisation you represent, and the role that you play in the business, if that's okay. If we start with Debbie, are you okay to go first?
Yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Debbie. I'm the Learning and Development Manager at Hotel Chocolat. So I look after learning and capability development across the organisation. So a big focus of my role is supporting leadership and management development, particularly helping managers build the confidence and skills that they need to effectively lead their team.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Claire?
Hi there. I've only actually been in role here at Ibstock for 4 months now. In fact, 4 months tomorrow. So pretty new to the world of Ibstock Brick. We're a 200-year-old business this year, which it's great to be part of. So I'm very much kind of learning the business. I've been in L&D, HR, training, apprenticeships for nearly 30 years, which is quite upsetting, but or not upsetting, just upsetting for the length of time. And I think so I'm responsible for the learning and development, the same as Debbie, in terms of leadership capability, apprenticeships that are upskilling apprenticeships, general learning activity. We're just launching a new system, so that's taken up most of my last 4 months, is putting into place a new learning system, which has been challenging, interesting, and kind of still ongoing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Claire. And Carl?
Well, I'm a production manager at Samworth Brothers, based at Braggate Bakery in Leicester. And I'm responsible for a team of area managers who run the day-to-day operations of the shop floor, making sure we hit the outloads of our deliveries and our supplies to our customers.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you, for sharing that really good experience in the room. So let's start with our first question. So the first topic is around challenges facing manufacturing at the moment, and particularly what they mean for leadership and management. From my experience, it's a really interesting time for the industry. I think there's lots of things that you're navigating. So from kind of workforce pressures, supply chain disruptions, automation, sustainability, rising customer expectations. I mean, kind of the list goes on and on. So all of these inevitably definitely have an impact on how we then need to look at our leadership and management. So I'd really like to get your perspective on this. So what do you see is the most significant challenges facing manufacturing right now? And more importantly, what does that mean for leadership? Would anyone like to go first? Has anyone got any real insight that they would like to share?
I'm happy to jump in.
Go for it, Claire. Thank you.
If and all the things that you listed there, absolutely. Obviously, you know, I'm kind of really getting a flavour for this at the moment. The world is causing us issues in terms of, you know, supply chain and all of that kind of thing. But I think for us at the moment, one of our biggest challenges is around an ageing population and kind of the technical knowledge and the capability that sits really well with that. But that is reaching a point where people are thinking about retirement, and how do we then make sure that that knowledge is following through. So one of the things that I'm working on, you know, I might be jumping the gun, but around succession, you know, that is a big challenge, is encouraging people into the industry and filling these gaps, you know, filling this big massive hole that we're going to have in terms of leadership knowledge and technical knowledge as well. But yeah, so for leadership wise, that means that we will have a big gap, and we kind of are aware of that. So for us, I think that's something that's a big challenge at the moment.
Wonderful, thank you for sharing. I'm sure both of you will concur with with Claire's insight. But any other significant challenges, or if you wanted to build on what Claire just said?
Yeah, I think you mentioned pace of change and automation. I think advancement in technology and automation really affects that pace of change, and we're going to continue to see the environment rapidly change. So having the skills to be able to lead your team through change is massive, and I think that's where that kind of issue really comes in with leadership and management, and how it impacts that. You know, if we don't have leaders that are ready, that are set up for success with the right skills to be able to lead and manage their team, then that's, you know, really gonna we're really going to see that play out as a key challenge. And I think what we often see is managers stepping into leadership roles because they're technically very good, but they don't always have that opportunity to develop the people side, you know, leading their teams, managing their teams, learning how to deal with the pace of change. So I think, you know, that's something that we really need to think about moving forward, and just equipping leaders, managers with the right skills to be able to adapt with that pace of change.
Absolutely. I think it's such a good point with the fact that it almost feels like there's only one way to progress. So you're just really, really good at your job. So the next step is, okay, so here's a team of people to then manage, and it's completely different skill set. So, and I think that's manufacturing, but across all industries, that seems to be a real problem. So thank you, Debbie. Carl, anything to add?
No, it's very much the same, to be fair. I think it's a case of trying to coach and develop your team as you go along as well, and try and give your experience to them people coming through. I think it's very much, you know, I've learned a lot on the last 2 years with yourself, Carly, going through the apprenticeship, and I think it's about adapting to that and bringing your team along with you, creating that culture of change, creating that culture of learning and development, and really trying to embed that into your team.
Absolutely. I suppose to follow on from that, like a question just to think about how the role has changed. You know, the role over the last maybe 3 to 5 years, what do you think the specific things that have really changed in that time? If you look back maybe 3-5 years ago to now, what's the kind of the gaps? What capabilities are we missing?
I think there's a lot of, from my perspective, there's a lot of data management now. There's a lot more data management going into structured based operations, and I think it's about how do we bring people along with that, into that data management. How do we siphon data? How do we bring people on board? How do they adapt and use that to push the business and their areas forward? I think that's quite a, you know, for me, that's a big change coming through on what we've been doing, a bit more computerized systems and where we were a few years back.
Just to add on to that, I agree. I think there's a lot more pressure now around productivity and performance. And some of that data piece that you mentioned there is helping us to measure that really effectively. So that increases the pressure. So again, it sort of goes back to making sure that we're helping managers to build the confidence, and we're giving them the right skills to be able to support their teams through that.
Absolutely.
I think, and also building on that again, is one of the challenges around time, because we are seeing that we know that the things are tighter in terms of just headcount, that kind of thing. So we're reducing headcount, but and what can happen at that time obviously is the stuff that we call soft skills, if you like, which isn't a phrase that I'm particularly a fan of, but because I see them as essential skills, tend to be pushed backwards, or I haven't got time for that. So you'll know this with the apprenticeships, with the time for doing that, and we sometimes forget to look at the value and the long-term benefit of just taking the time to look at how we're doing things, which will ultimately improve how we do things and our efficiency and all of the things. If we've got our team working with us, if we've got people that don't need encouragement, coaching, learning today, which means that they can then support the business going forward. I think there's a lot of pressure. That pressure to be more productive puts the operational kind of a push on that without recognising, and sometimes we need that shift to remember the importance of those things as well for long-term success, really.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. Lots of things to kind of get our teeth into. So let's switch slightly then. So let's move on from the challenges to what actually makes a difference in practice. So have you got any kind of practical strategies that you feel like have driven real improvement for your business? So it could be thinking about the programs that you or the business have completed. What's that change that's happened, whether it's like improvements of KPIs, the shop floor, softer skills, as we were talking about, all those essential skills. What are some of those practical strategies that have driven real business improvement in your business?
I think, sorry, you're frozen then, sorry.
Sorry, go on, Carl.
That's all right. I think it's about continuous improvement for me. I think it's making sure that we can continually improve our people, our leaders, as well as the day-to-day operational things we need to do. And I think, by bringing that continuous improvement, that lean agenda in, the more we can work through that, the more we can adapt our processes and having more of a standardized way of working.
Absolutely. Have you got any examples, Carl, of like where you have implemented some of this? I suppose maybe it's a continuous improvement mindset, but where
I think it is. I think we look at challenges now. I think again about the data driving data around issues we have. It's about understanding how we utilize continuous improvement with teams, with bringing everybody on board with the end goal as such. And I think it might be a case of bringing a new machine, and it might be a case of waste control streams, it might be something like that, but bringing more data driven, a bit more continuous improvement. So what do we do now, what do we do in the medium term, and then long term visions of what we need to do. And I think by bringing the team in and having that as a cultural change within the operations, it's more of a structured way of working rather than there's a problem there, let's go and fix it.
Absolutely.
And we can learn from things like that as well. I think it then adapts to other things.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. Debbie, Claire?
I think looking at it from an L&D lens, I think the most successful development tends to be the development interventions that are most practical. So things that really focus on real leadership problems that people are facing day in, day out. So for me, it's about creating that piece of development that's really going to connect with people in terms of real problems and real ways to overcome them.
100%. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And obviously I'm very new, so I haven't actually got a chance yet to embed anything, but thinking about situations from previous roles, and things that will be coming, further down the line in terms of leadership development and things we've done here in the past. Making it really practical, making it not just a nice buffet lunch, which but thinking about and getting people together and really talking about their challenges and learning from each other as well. That peer learning is really important, and again that comes down to time and recognizing the importance of doing that and the benefit of doing that. Having those practical layers of development as well, I think is something that I'm very much looking at. I've kind of got in my head a pathway for various levels of leadership and what that's going to look like moving forward. We're doing a big piece of work around skill matrix and using this new system. So I think those strategy, will be coming. We have shorter kind of mini sort of learning activities as well, so, and they've been popular from what I can tell so far, and I've done a couple of those already. So yeah, I'd 100% agree with that kind of practical. Gone are the days of a week-long conference, kind of enjoying a nice lunch and all that kind of thing. It's just not practical and doesn't really return any real value anyway. Well, some, but not as much as we would like for the time that it takes. So
absolutely. Yeah, I love what you said there about being able to kind of practice those skills as well, and being able to actually demonstrate them in practice in the roles. And I think that definitely helps to bring to life those development interventions as well, and makes it more practical and real for the people coming through. And that's what it's all about, as well as making sure that there's points in that development process where their line manager is involved as well, and that the coaching and mentoring piece comes in as well. So just really setting up people for success with whatever we're rolling out in terms of learning and development, but with lots of points to make sure that it's real, it's practical, they can go away and apply it and reflect and learn.
Absolutely. I mean, this leads us really nicely onto this next question, which is more about kind of structured development. So I suppose it's now exploring about what this structured management development programs look like and how they've played a role in supporting some of these improvements that you've mentioned. So have you got any examples of where you feel like these structured development programs have really made like a big impact or some kind of impact, whether, like I said, it's on mindset, KPIs, productivity, some examples of where it's made a real difference?
I think the apprenticeship program we've been running here, I think, has a massive impact in how we visualize what we're doing going forward. I think with coaching, development, mentoring, really putting that into the frontal pace of what we want to achieve, and having that cross-functional teams going through each one of them apprenticeships, which has helped with our communication as well. I think it's improved the way we look at things. It's sort of like even language. I think the language is sort of changing, as in how you would talk about different aspects of the business and how you would lead, say KPIs, say lean, standard leader work, things like that. It's given that language of, it's common knowledge. It's common now for everybody to talk like that, and we know what people are talking about. And I think that for me is a good structured base, and I think people are learning how to do that.
And I suppose, Carl, just because you've been on the programme, what do you feel like, how did it help you? Like, is there any improvements that you felt like that you were able to put into practice straight away, or just that you've just changed your approach in how you've done things?
Yeah, I think it's just given me, like I said, it gave me a little bit more of a, because I've been a manager for a long time, but it's given me that sort of, to go up the levels in management, it's understanding, like we're saying, the different languages people speak. The higher you go, it's a different language as such. It's like, we're talking about, performance levels and KPIs and visions and things like that, strategies, all of that side. But then able to do that and then bring it into your team through that coaching and mentoring stage, and understand it as well, and understand the bigger picture from the business, from the commercial levels all the way through the business as an operational lead. It's for me, it's been a massive learning curve on how I actually manage my team day to day as well. And it's changed my mindset as sort of how do I lead better and bring my team along with me.
Wonderful, thank you. Same question then to Debbie.
Maybe a slightly different lens, but one thing that we've learned is that engagement with development programs increases significantly when people actually understand the purpose of it and they're invested in the opportunity, rather than it being a kind of mandatory process that they're required to attend. So we've tried a few different approaches at Hotel Chocolat. We have kind of not mandated but strongly suggested, identified a group of individuals to come through the level 3 programme, and then we've offered out the level 5 programme as, you know, an optional development route, and we've also rolled out an internal leadership development programme. And what we've found is that, you know, when people have been able to sign up to that opportunity, when they see it as something that, you know, they're really involved in, and they've made that conscious decision to come through the programme, the results and the impact, you know, in terms of engagement, tend to be much stronger. So I think there's something there around, you know, helping people understand why they're coming through the programme, what it's actually for, what it's going to do for them, and how it's going to help them to develop, and also giving them the ownership around their own learning.
Can I just build upon that? Sorry, that's exactly how I attended. It's a case of, it was approached to me. I've done my level 3 quite a long time ago, but for my development, I had to look at myself and think, if I'm going any further and I want to push myself further for the business, it was good to have these other skills. And I think by that opportunity being not sort of asked, but he said it was there for the people to want to develop. Now I had to make that conscious decision myself to say, if I want to develop and have them skills, then I need to go onto this course, and I need to really push myself. And it gave me the onus of wanting to do it and wanting to go onto it, because it wasn't mandatory. It was a case of, well, it's there if you want it, and if you want to progress, it's, you know, we can put you on it. And I think from my perspective, it's really helped me for that case. It wasn't, like I say, I think if it is mandatory, it's quite of, oh God, I've got to go on that course. But if it's something you want to do and develop yourself, I think it's a great way of doing it. But yeah, brilliant. It's helped me immensely.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think it always feels like you've got some choice. If you've got choice in it and you understand your reason for doing it, it's you can see the value. If you see the value, then you're going to put the time and effort into it, aren't you, and get something from it. Otherwise, sometimes when it's just mandatory, it just feel like you're, you know, kind of, you know, pushing your bike up a hill through mud, and it doesn't feel very, very exciting, or you're definitely not going to get as much value from it. Claire, anything to add?
Yeah, I think absolutely, that ownership, and I've worked on the other side of as Ian knows, as an assessor and a consultant on apprenticeships. And I know, you know, when you sit in a room and some people have been told, they might start off saying, I don't even know why I'm here. I mean, there's usually a conversation to be had at that point, to be honest. But I think that ownership is so crucial, and also, so, you know, we're hopefully a structured, you know, we've got structured programs in place at the moment in terms of the level 3 and the level 5, obviously. What that's going to look like moving forward, to be confirmed, kind of thing. But you know, embedding it, I think that's also the crutch, the structured development work that gives you that ability to embed it if you've got people who are aware of what's going on. So it's not just the person that's doing the learning, it's their manager, it's the people around them. And there's nothing better than sharing some learning, having a workshop or doing something like that on a day. And then when you see people again, you come back and they said, that was great, that worked really well. And you know what, I went away and I tried that activity with my team and it was brilliant. And now they're all talking about it, you know, they're all doing this, they're all conscious of this. So it's not just that the person who's doing the learning is getting the benefit from that, but also if it's structured, people know what's going on, then they can spread that as well. And then they want to, you're building people and you're gaining more buy-in, you're getting people who want to grow and develop, and there's nothing better than seeing that. And then coming back and with a structured approach, you can kind of look at 6 months down the line, what impact has that had? And that's so important to do that. You've got on their impact, because otherwise you're just tipping up for the day and having a nice chat with people, or whatever learning activity it is that you're doing. So it's thinking about that, and I think that's what I'm excited to bring in, is that more structured layers. So yeah, 100% echo what everyone said.
Wonderful, brilliant. Right,
sorry, can I?
Sorry, yes, go
sorry.
for it.
I think you're there. I'm right on that. Sorry, I think it's for me, because my sort of sponsor was my senior manager, and attending the meetings every month with the tutor really helped her insight on what the course was about and how we were developing, and some of her ways she was looking at it as well. And we're having some deep conversations about how the structures are changing and how management is processing now, and I think it gave her a real insight on how the apprenticeships are working now as well. So I think not only am I learning, I think everybody else is learning with this.
Yeah, fantastic.
Brilliant, wonderful. Right, let's have a look at, let's fast forward slightly. So I think one of the things that we're really interested in exploring is how leadership in manufacturing is evolving. So, I mean, it's changed quite a lot over the last couple of years, and I'm sure it's going to change, more rapidly as we move through. So we spoke a bit about some of those changes. So definitely technology, workforce expectations, sustainability pressures, data and decision making, all of those challenges that we've spoke about. So I suppose crucially, it's about thinking about what the future of leadership is going to look like in this sector. So I'd really like to hear your perspective on this. So what do you think some of the kind of key skills managers are going to need over the next few years to be effective?
I think just to echo what I said before, really, I think future leaders need to be able to manage change effectively and help lead their team through change, not just be able to kind of manage those operational processes. And that's a big one for me. I think manufacturing environments are going to continue to adapt and change rapidly. So we need to be ready for it. And I think we need to set our leaders up for success with those people skills and change management skills to be able to move through those changes at pace successfully. So that's the biggest one for me. And I think that really does put the emphasis on leadership development, and particularly on building those skills like communication and adaptability to support them with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that the thing with technology is it is as well developing that it's leaning into it, and how do we work with it? Because we're all kind of, it can cause a little bit of panic, but actually it can be incredibly helpful. I mean, just some of the things that are available now to me can really reduce how much time I'm spending, I don't know, producing something, with all the AI kind of stuff, and especially in manufacturing, some of our changes. I mean, some of our factories are a lot older, and there's quite some traditional skills going on there, which is great fun to see. I've been out on site now and seeing that, but also some of it is really new and cutting edge, and so it's, I think I definitely agree with Debbie there around the adaptability and the change, and kind of that's almost going back to empathetic kind of leadership in terms of understanding how people react to change. Because like I said, we've got a real range of ages in our business, and there can be a resistance to change. So I think that, or a nervousness around change. So just going back to the very basics of kind of understanding why people, some people embrace change, some people will absolutely resist it to the end. Thinking about having those coaching skills. So I making sure that we're supporting our leaders to be able to support their team is crucial, to understand how fast it's going, but also that sort of human side of it as well.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. Can I just add something on to
Yeah,
that?
of course.
I think just hearing you talking through some of that, it just reminded me that I feel that we're so often guilty of just rushing through the process of change and implementing that latest technology that we know is going to increase productivity, and it's the right business decision, but we sometimes forget to take our people on that journey and help them understand all the benefits and why we're doing it and what it's not going to change. That's a big one for me that I think we sometimes forget to tell people. So that can create that nervousness around, our people on the front line, around what it means for them. So yeah, I think just hearing some of your points there just made me, really reflect on the fact that I think we are guilty of not taking people on that journey. Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add that in.
No, it's a really good point. And absolutely, I think, gosh, lots of organisations are probably guilty of exactly the same. They've kind of got used to this idea, haven't they? They've spent a lot of time with it. So they've been on the journey. And then when it gets landed, it's like, yay, let's all be enthusiastic about it. And people are a bit like, whoa, this is a change. Carl.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I think we have to bring our teams along with us. And I think in the next few years is going to be quite challenging for all of the manufacturing industry. I think it's going to be a lot of change going on. I think as long as we try and build it into our cultures and bring people along with us, and we be transparent and open and honest with people and sell the good things about change as well, rather than, because like you say, people do look at it and go, and they do get taken back by change. And I think, but if we sell it in the right way and we coach and develop people in the right way and we bring them on the journey, building it into our culture, building it into our day-to-day lives, I think it becomes becomes very seamless. I think, hoping that we can do that. And I think but again, it's about coaching and mentoring people and making sure that we get the right information to the right people when we need it, and bringing that through.
Yeah, I love what you said about the opportunities as well that change brings. And I think, when we're thinking about career development, there is that opportunity for people to become multi-skilled, and develop in different pathways, that squiggly career piece. You don't have to just progress in a linear direction. You can move around, and I think some of the advances in technology provide that opportunity for us, but we need to unlock it. And especially just going back on your point, Carl, about helping people understand the opportunity that comes with that.
Yeah. It's something that I've just thought about while you were talking there as well, around our leaders, and this is true of any industry, around being even more, and it's so important at the moment. We're facing into quite a challenging world at the moment, and kind of equipping our managers to be more recognizing of the differences of people. So thinking about change, some people will absolutely love it and want to know what's going to be different. Some people will hate it and want to know what's staying the same. But also in terms of all the different people that we might have working with us and their needs, because one person isn't alone going to be the ideal person to do all of the jobs that we need. There's so many different strengths, so it's about understanding those differences in people. And some of the best work that I've done when developing leaders has just been around kind of building our own self-awareness, but then challenging our views on people, potentially some of our biases or any of those things. And I know it sounds kind of, it's very straightforward and simplistic, but sometimes we forget those basics of just recognizing the strengths of everyone, people around us, so I think moving forward, we absolutely need to be responsible for that as well, kind of embracing differences and getting the best out of our teams.
Absolutely. Really good. Thanks so much. Right, a final question before we do a bit of reflection. So, and again, we've covered some of this already in our discussions, but let's dive a bit deeper. So, This is really, I suppose, thinking about it in terms of the future sector and how we build like these long leadership, I suppose, generation pipelines. So we were talking about aging population, how do we progress people from one part to the other? So I'd be really interested to hear your experiences around this. So I suppose my question is, how are you building like this current long-term management capability within your organisation? What strategies have you started to put in place, or what are you thinking about for the future?
So, I mean, I touched on it already, so I'll go first. We have recently rolled out our First Line Managers Development Programme, which is an internal programme focused on the first line manager population. And what we've done is slightly pivoted what we were doing before with apprenticeships, in terms of using apprenticeships as an opportunity then for people to progress further, following on from that or alongside it, whatever that looks like for the individual. And then the plan moving forward would be to roll out further internal development programs and promote further apprenticeship opportunities for people. We're still quite early on in the process at Hotel Chocolat, but you know, this is kind of where we want to get to with having those really clear defined leadership pathways for people to understand what that career development looks like for them.
Absolutely. Thank you, Debbie.
And similar here. I mean, the plan is to really think about the different needs of all the different levels. So some more kind of executive kind of, you know, coaching and mentoring, but also kind of what that looks like for senior leaders, but then also thinking about our emerging leaders, which I think is so important, and probably likely to be putting in a first line managers development program, which is something that I've done in the past. So we'll be very excited to bring that to Ibstock. We've got a lot of kind of really promising potential who would like to develop more using the apprenticeships, if you know, as and however we can, and thinking about the CI development as well, because I think that leans really well into what we do here, certainly at Ibstock. And so I think it's having that structured approach will follow, using our new LMS as well. So using that structure to support all the pathways. It's very much a support tool for that. So yeah, it's exciting.
Wonderful. Thanks, Claire. Carl?
Yeah, similar, to be fair. I think we're using the apprenticeships all the way through the business now to develop our frontline leaders and our emerging talent coming through the business. I think people stepping into area manager level and production manager level and into senior managers are all taking that apprenticeship pathway as well, and having that opportunity to grow through that, as well as having that opportunity to then develop other people through that. So yeah.
I suppose a follow-up question would be, are you doing anything in particular to identify those kind of emerging leaders? Is there anything that you do that first stage? Like, how do you identify if they are kind of has that potential, or even if they want to have that potential?
That's it's a difficult thing, because we're looking at the succession. We've got a big succession review coming up, starting in the end of the month, hopefully. But that is looking at that, but also thinking about how do we recognise those emerging leaders as well, you know, from the factory, you know, for factory teams as well, which is really important. It's something that I need to continue to work on, actually. I think that is a bit of a gap, so definitely something to look at, to make sure that everyone's got those opportunities.
Yeah, similar. I think it's a bit of an opportunity for us. Our talent process, we use the 9-box talent matrix, and have succession planning conversations around the business. But it you know, the 9-box ratings doesn't stretch to all levels across the organisation. So I think that is an opportunity to think about what that might look like for the future.
Absolutely. Really good stuff. I suppose the closing point on this, first of all, it's so good that you're looking at first line managers, because in some organizations they kind of get left behind a little bit. So, you know, it's senior managers or the exec team that get like lots of support, when really they're quite well, hopefully they're quite well on in their career and probably had these opportunities before. Whereas first line managers, the research suggests that they manage the majority of people in the whole organisation. Therefore, they set the tone of the whole organisation. Those first line managers will manage everyone who has interactions with customers. So these people are like crucial in our business. And it's good to hear that you are focusing on developing those first line managers, because like we've said, sometimes you just kind of get dropped into the role. You're really good at your job. Here you go. Let's have a team of people. Good luck. Off you go type thing. So really good. Right. OK, final reflections then. So there's just a couple of questions that I always think just are really interesting to find out from you. So there's a couple of questions I'd like to, and I'll give you a moment just to think about this. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff we've covered already, but I want you to think about one skill every manager needs, the best piece of leadership advice that you've ever been given, biggest challenge since the programme, or since from a business perspective, since you looked into apprenticeships or before you looked into apprenticeships, and I suppose a message for other manufacturers as well. So would anyone like to go first? Doesn't matter if you can't answer all of them, just a couple of reflections from today's session, and best leadership advice you've ever had, I think is always a really good one.
So I'll jump in.
Thank you.
I'll probably take maybe take the one there. So one skill, the one skill that everyone needs and thinks potentially they're good at, and I would challenge, and I love challenging this in a workshop or whatever, or anyone, is just listening, is actually properly listening, because we're not great at it. I'm not great at it. I know I struggle sometimes not to get excited and jump in. Doing very well today, I think. So active listening is absolutely crucial. And I think the best leadership advice I've had, I'm just trying to think about that. And one of the great leaders that I've had would always ask me what I thought we could do, which flipped it. So a great coaching approach that I kind of thought, I don't know, I need you to tell me. And afterwards, now I look back and I think, yeah, she was developing me, and that was what that was all about. And another piece was around not turning over too many stones at once.
Very good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll go next then. I think one skill every manager needs is communication. So being able to clearly communicate expectations, but also, as you said, Claire, being able to listen to what your team need as well. So communication's the one, if I had to pick one, the one biggest skill that I think every manager needs. Best leadership advice, probably that being a really effective and good leader is about creating the right environment for your team to be able to learn and grow. So I think that's probably the biggest piece of advice that's stuck with me around being a great leader. So just creating that right environment. Biggest change since the programme. I think the biggest change we see from people moving through leadership development programmes or leadership apprenticeships is confidence. So that's probably the biggest change that you see. And I think if you've got confident leaders, then that's going to impact performance, because they're going to be having good conversations with their teams, and that's going to impact engagement, which is then going to impact performance. So confidence is probably the one for me. And then one message for other manufacturers, I think just remember to talk about the why, what's in it for them. So if you're going to put someone through a program, just help them understand the benefits and what they're going to gain from going through that program, because that's going to really get their buy-in. And that's so crucial in terms of sustainable behavioural changes. So yeah, just start from the what's in it for them.
Really good. Thank you so much. Carl, finally.
Yeah, to be fair, I really try and build on some of it, but I think I'm more or less the same as everybody else. I think One skill every manager needs, I think, through my time, I think communication and being very clear and consistent with your communication. I think having that and being able to lead like that, I think it's very clear to everybody that that's where you stand with things, and that's how things will change, instead of being a bit up and down with your communication. The best advice that a leader's ever told me would be that, from my perspective, is to lead and try and build within the culture of your site and within what you're doing. So always maintain the culture of how you build your teams within our factory culture as such, and always mentor and coach people and bring them on board a lot more within your messaging, and help and support as well when needed, and be available for people as well. I think from my perspective, it's a case I've always been said to, if people want to speak, it's like that active listening. If people want to talk to you, always make time for them instead of brushing them off, because you become approachable, then you become an approachable leader, and people trust and have got confidence in you in that way. And therefore, if you're demonstrating the culture of the site, then that's what you should be living and breathing. Biggest change since the program, I would say I'm more confident, I'm more consistent with my messaging. I've got I'm stronger in my leadership now, and I'm more forward planning instead of looking at day-to-day issues and getting involved and being in depth with that. I tend to look at and absorb what's going on, but then look at the bigger picture and understand what we can do going forward. And yeah, my other message to other manufacturers would be, again, look what it can bring to your site, and look what benefits the person who's doing it, and the benefit for your site as well, and the leaders coming through, not only the person doing it, but the people who that messaging gets across to as well.
Absolutely.
So you might have a great pool of people, but if one person's doing it, it does affect everybody else.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Wow, thank you so much. That was like lots and lots of valuable discussions there. I suppose to just summarize some of that stuff. So I suppose it's really clear from our discussion about the role of the manufacturing manager is changing so much, and it will continue to change, probably more rapidly as well. Many of you spoke about some of those pressures that you're facing. So absolutely, like leading through uncertainty, having to lead through kind of that change perspective. The fact that skills are in short supply at the moment, and we're almost like on the back foot trying to get people to where they need to get to. We spoke about that aging population as well. So the point is, this environment in manufacturing is changing so much. It's going to be more important than ever to make sure our leaders are capable to be able to navigate through that. We've definitely heard consistently today that managers are not just kind of operational experts. They're expected to be really good communicators, really good at coaching, great at influencing, good at developing people, leading teams through change, and often, whilst doing all of that, making sure we deliver on the numbers as well. We've definitely heard some stuff that sometimes managers maybe are not given the right development and support opportunities. And in terms of kind of leadership confidence, that's where we've said, like, the benefit is if we put a bit of time aside for them in this more structured way. Confidence was one of the number one things that you said, actually, which is really helpful. And I suppose the biggest thing maybe is like the shift in mindset. So not just focusing on kind of the day job. This is about thinking about it in terms of yourself, how you then impact on other people, how you get the best out of people. So it's not just focusing on the day job. It's really shifting your mindset to think about it in terms of navigating some of those challenges. So I suppose finally, thank you so much for sharing your experiences today. Definitely really valuable insights, really great stuff that we've spoke about. And I'm sure that other people watching this will definitely be facing some of the same challenges. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.